Hello, everyone. Thank you for being with us today. We're here to talk about Operation Child Protector 3. And as you can see, our partner groups, our agencies that are with us. First, I want to introduce you to Mark Brutnell. Mark is with Florida Department of Law Enforcement. He's a special agent in charge for this area. Then there's Lieutenant Don King from the Auburndale Police Department. He's with us and his team was part of the task force. And then there's FDC, Florida Department of Corrections, with Cherie Woody Loud. And we have John Sheffield and Natisha Moore, Tara Wood, and Brandon Shealy. Where's Brandon? He's in the back. He's not standing up here today. Folks, what we do best is when we work as a team. And as you know, my top priority is to protect those folks who can't protect themselves, the very young, the very old, and certainly those that are mentally and physically challenged. Well, our goal here today was to arrest really, really bad guys who were preying on the young folks or trying to prey on the young folks. Our detectives, who are simply the very best in this business, were once again doing what they do best, and that was to find predators before they get to our children. But unfortunately today, you're also going to find that our Special Victims Unit worked two cases where the predators did get to the victims, and we'll talk about that in just a few minutes. But we have arrested 30. There's 7 that have outstanding warrants, and we need them in custody. So if you recognize these people or know where they are, please let us know because we're after them. 30 cases. 10 of them were what we call travelers or those trying to groom or attack children. The other 27 were already sex offenders that were convicted, and they had some type of violation. There's a set of rules once they get out of prison that they have to follow. Rules such as we need to know where you live. If you change addresses, you must contact us and give us the appropriate information. They can't have cell phones maybe, or digital devices, or be online. There's a whole group of policies and practices that they have to follow. When they don't, they're in violation. Our partners from FDC help us focus on these folks, and that's what we did. So I want to start and go through our different flashcards here so that you see some of the horrible, horrible people that we're dealing with. So I want to start with a couple that we want. We want Bradley Hines. He's 34 years of age. He was grooming a child online. He did not travel to the undercover location or he would have been arrested. So he didn't travel, but he was sending pictures of himself nude or somebody else nude, and he thought he was sending these pictures to a 13-year-old child. But what he was sending them to is one of our undercover detectives. Now, he lives in the Pinellas Park area, so if you recognize him, we would certainly like for him to spend the weekend in the county jail, and the next weekend in the county jail, and the next weekend in the county jail, and then ultimately go to prison, but he's at large right now. Then there's Kenneth Neat. Kenneth is 59 years of age. He's supposedly from the Seffner area. We want him too. He thought he was grooming a 13-year-old female, and he did this with very graphic challenges to the young lady and very graphic language. And in part of the communications with her, he said, "I'm old enough to be your grandpa." But yet he still said these ugly, vile things to this what he thought was a 13-year-old child. But let me introduce you to some of the people that we arrested. For example, here's Leo Centron. He's from Lakeland. His claim to fame, according to him, is he's an umpire. He's umpired high school games, college, D1, Division I, Division II. He wants to be a professional umpire. He claims to have umpired or some of these, what I would call farm league professionals. He traveled to meet what he thought was a 13-year-old male after grooming online. He too was very graphic. He lives with his parents, and now he's charged with significant crimes. He bonded out of jail. This is a nasty, nasty guy. But this was Samuel Zollner. He's from St. Pete. He claims he sells protein powder online and he's self-employed. But let me give you a little history about him. He's from Michigan. He met a live victim online and had sex with a 14-year-old female when he was 18. They gave him 2 years of probation. Do you think he could complete that probation? Of course not. And he was ultimately arrested and went to state prison in Michigan for 18 months. Then he moved here. So did any of that jail time work? Now keep in mind, he already had sex with a child. So now he's traveled. He's traveled because he's thinking he's going to meet a 15-year-old female to have sex. He sent videos of him doing ugly things. He sent photographs of himself nude. And ultimately, whenever he came to the house and we tried to take him into custody, he resisted and he was charged with resisting arrest with and without violence. That's right. He didn't want to go back to jail. Well, our goal is to send him to jail for a long time, not 18 months after probation like they did in Michigan. We plan to show Michigan what to do with somebody like this. If you don't keep them locked up, he's the evidence that they will assault again. He's done it at least once, and he thought he was going to do it again, but our great detectives stopped that. Well, I thought I'd introduce you to Justin Sturvant. He's 46. He's from Pueblo West, Colorado. Now, what's interesting about this, he is a corrections officer for the state of Colorado. That's right, he's a corrections officer. Did you hear what I said? And he's having unlawful communication and thinking he's grooming a 14-year-old female, and he is mailing pictures of his junk to her. Turns out it's our undercover detectives. There was lots of ugly sexual talk, lots of grooming. He was doing this from Colorado. He did not travel. And then when we go to do this investigation, we had some of our colleagues out there. His girlfriend's defending him. And in fact, he's blaming it on his 18-year-old son. Well, we have evidence to the contrary. So at the end of the day, we find out that he has a criminal arrest history. Did you hear me? Did you hear what I said? He is a member of the Colorado State Corrections System as an officer, and he has an arrest history. Now, some of those cases have been dropped. Some of them had pled. I think one of them was diverted. But he had assault charges, intimidation charges. Some were dropped. But he had, and not one arrest history. He had one from 2005, one from 2009, one from 2019, and one from 2021. And he's online with committing crimes, felonies in the state of Florida. Justin needs to be in the system. he needs to be in prison. But it won't be in the Colorado prison system. It'll be in the Florida prison system. Then there's Jose Armando. The sad case here, he was not one of the undercover operations. But what he did was traveled and had sex with a minor. That's right. He successfully went online and groomed a young lady, a child, only 14 years of age. And then he crept into her bedroom window at night and had sex with her. He confessed to our Special Victims Unit detectives. And we also have him captured when, in this case, he didn't creep into her bedroom. That was the other one. He went to her house and picked her up and took her back to his house. And we have video at his house of him bringing this 14-year-old child into his home. But this is an example of why we do this. This is the guy from Davenport, Florida, that we look to put in prison. So he groomed this child successfully. He went to her house. He picked her up, took her back to his house, and unlawfully had sex with her. Well, this is the guy who crept into the house. He traveled as well. He groomed online a 13-year-old successfully. And he went to the house late at night and crept into the bedroom window and engaged in illegal, illicit sex. He confessed. Are you ready for this? There's some things you just can't believe. But he admitted to us that he had STDs. Not one, but two different kinds of STDs when he had unprotected sex with this child that's 13 years old. Are you kidding me? He's only been here 2 months from North Carolina. He's already grooming children here and did that while he's eaten up with these diseases. And then he says, oh, but it's no big deal. I'm taking medicine. What can I tell you? I certainly look forward to him spending a long time in prison, and who knows what he might have left with that child for the rest of her life. Before we go on to another topic, I want to turn the podium over for just a minute to Mark Brutnell and then to Cherie Woody Loud for their comments.
Thank you, Sheriff. Good afternoon. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the investigative team for an amazing operation that was conducted. These investigations are different. They're different because what the investigators are exposed to. The stuff they have to hear, see, and read, quite frankly, is just disturbing. As a law enforcement officer and as a parent, I'm very thankful that these fine men and women stand between our children and these individuals. FDLE is proud to stand with our partners here today to work these types of operations. We take pride in working across the state with other agencies to conduct most of these operations. As you can see, some of these folks here are not from Polk County. Their criminal intent knows no jurisdictional boundary. They think they can hide behind a computer screen or a smartphone from across the state. I guess I would simply say good luck with that. We will continue to work these cases. We will continue to target these individuals, bring them to justice, and hold them accountable. Thank you. Thanks, Sheriff.
Good afternoon. We with the Department of Corrections would like to thank the Sheriff's Office and all the other agencies that we are partners with for the honor and the pleasure to be out on the streets to make sure that we take these people that are taking these conditions of supervision lightly, to let them know that we will not stand by and watch these actions to take place again. I have officers on the field, we have officers in the office, and we'll make sure that these offenders understand that we're out to make sure they comply with their conditions and work with all the law enforcement officers to help them with any investigations that they have in the future.
Do you have questions for any of us?
Is this sexual offender compliance focus, was that new with this operation? Trying to zero in on that?
No, it wasn't. This was just an addition, working with FDC. We check these people and do violations all throughout the year anyway, but we did a massive roundup to go along with this operation, and we have done this before. So it is, I can tell you, the good news is there was only 2 that travel, which is, and you say, well, what's good news about that? Well, the good news about that is we used to get them by the busloads. And now we see there's not that many of them. A lot of these predators now, you understand, moved here after their convictions and maybe after they serve state prison time someplace else, but they still have conditions because they're sexual predators or sexual offenders. So they are watched by DOC or us as well. So at the end of the day, it's us all working together, and we just did a roundup of them. But don't think that they're not watched every day, because that's what these wonderful folks do. They keep an eye on them every day for us. Anything else? Okay.